All right, guys, let's get into this because early in my career, I figured out a super simple way to make money in real estate without money or credit because I didn't have either. And it had to be simple because I was already working a 50-hour a week job full time, and I didn't have the time to spend on a complicated and learning curve or expensive ways of getting things done. So what I'm seeing today is a lot of people are doing side hustles and side hacks to make money, alternative sources of income, alternatives to the conventional 9 to 5 work, right? So that's why I wanted to do this video of this really simple breakdown of how making money in real estate really works fast to fast track your income. Because honestly, guys, after 541 clients, this is way easier than most people think. Right. So let's get into this. In this video, I'm going to show you that best model to hit 10K a month. It's the easiest way I've found after 17 years and how it works and the biggest question. So you can see if it aligns with you. And then the 3 mistakes to avoid, and these will stop you or break you. So I just want to let you know it's not for you if you're looking for a guaranteed monthly income, because there is nothing guaranteed in real estate. It's based on how much effort you want to put into it. And it's not for you if you want passive income with zero involvement. That's fine too, but this isn't the method for that. And if you're uncomfortable with the unconventional, right? So those last 2 I'm going to talk about because there's a lot of personal preferences that go into which real estate niche is best suited for you. So I'm just going to explain those last 2 points. This isn't for you if you want zero involvement, because this is a quick flip real estate about playing matchmaker. You create a deal with your seller, match it to your buyer. Simple as. And if you're the type of person who doesn't want to talk to people, this isn't for you. So you should probably just stick with having a real estate agent find property for you or search the MLS yourself. And then you send an offer through your agent without even talking to the seller. And then this other point, it's if you're uncomfortable with the unconventional, right? You don't want to step outside the box. I don't even think there is a box. The first, you have to be okay with unconventional path, right? The path that not many people take or even know about. If you don't want to learn anything new, or you want the same old ways that everyone else is doing, this isn't for you, because it all boils down to either 2 roads, the conventional 9 to 5 or the unconventional new income streams. And I really think that's what a lot of this new market is geared towards, unconventional. And that's why really no one else even knows about this or does it well, because very few people are willing to stray off the conventional path. And that's the hidden advantage here that this fast flip method really has, right? So there's very little competition because not a lot of people know about it or do it correctly. So I'll show you how to do it correctly, but I can't make you take the steps that actually put it into practice if you're uncomfortable with the unconventional. All right. So, one final disqualifier. Those are the reasons that disqualify a person from the fast flip method. But here's the big problem that affects almost everyone, even a lot of my clients. I'd say 80% of the clients came to me with this problem. It's the one thing I see stopping people most from making the money they want. And it's just information overload. There is so much out there that you can feel overwhelmed. But sifting and sorting misinformation is not only confusing, it stops a lot of people from even taking action, right? Because when a person's waiting to make money, wanting to make money, and their mind is also constantly questioning everything, those questions like bang around in your head and your subconscious, and you don't have answers for it, and it can be confusing and distracting, right? And then when you're confused, you just don't take next steps. Even if you did start, you won't take the next step that needs to be done. So you may start and then stop, which leads to frustration. And then it's like this vortex of problems because it makes it that much harder. So harder for a person to actually do what it takes to do the work to make the money. And they often get stuck in this analysis paralysis, in this constant research and study, but then they're not moving any closer to making the money. So my recommendation is pick a proven system and then go all in. All the pros say that. All the top business advice says, you pick one, you go all in. And I came up with this about 17 years ago. I've done over 700 of these deals that I'm going to describe, and I use it to this day, and I teach others how to do it. And I firmly believe it is the most reliable, profitable way to make money in real estate in the shortest period of time. And again, without money, credit, or risk. And what I just said, I've been saying, prove me wrong, prove that statement wrong. For about 5 years, I started saying that. And I've not heard any arguments to disprove it. So here's how it works. You can put your mind at ease and focus on whether or not this is what is the method that's going to align with you, because I want to give you all the answers to the biggest questions about this fast flip method, and some you may not even have thought about. So the first one is, if it's so easy, why doesn't everybody do it? Well, easy doesn't mean obvious, right? No one really knows about it, and it's still kind of underground. Most investors are still thinking in terms of you buy property, not contracts, right? And then that gap between knowing and not knowing, it's not about intelligence, it's about exposure to the idea, exposure to seeing it get done, like videos like this, like we're going to go over. And this method is easy, but the mindset isn't. Kind of goes back to that being comfortable with the uncomfortable. The wrong mindset locks out legitimate opportunities. So this isn't for everyone, and that's fine. But why this method, or with this method, I'll never build equity in a property, and that's absolutely right. Again, if you're looking for building equity, this isn't for you. Although I'll put one caveat in here in a short bit, because I do both. Some investors prefer owning property for years and building equity the traditional way. Cool. Others don't mind short-term velocity and higher margins that this method offers. So neither approach is wrong. They're just different. Different people, different strokes for different folks. My method is speed to cash over a marathon of building equity. Now, like I say, that caveat, I do both. So I have cash now and cash monthly, right? My fast flips funded my $12 million portfolio. That's in large part how I got my portfolio. How much capital is truly needed to start? Well, the only out-of-pocket you're going to have is for the earnest money deposit on the purchase agreement to make it that legal. And of course, you need to invest in the training that gives you the know-how, the paperwork, and the process to make all the magic happen, right? But a lot of the marketing costs, I'll show you, are either zero or very low, especially to get started. You can scale. Once you start making money, you start paying, and it creates a flywheel effect. So you already have a proven system. Once you spend the money to get more leads, those leads then spin off and make you more money. So to start building your list, I'll show you several free ways to build what I call a list bank. What if a buyer backs out? Oh man, it's happened. It happened a lot. You'll always have multiple buyers ready though. So in your buyer list builder system, it's normal to have multiple buyers and even bidding wars. So while this is a problem, it's never a deal killer. I shouldn't say never. It's often not a deal killer. But if a buyer does back out at the last minute, you got a couple different options. So one, you can explain that to the seller. Be transparent. Look, my guy backed out. I hate when it happens too. In many cases, the people we're dealing with, the property sellers we're dealing with, are going to allow you more time. And then you just reschedule the closing to another buyer. And worst case scenario, I guess number 3 of your option is, you lose your money, everything you put up, your $10. Are you hiding something about the risks? What are the true risks? Like I said, $10 earnest money, which is your right to the seller in order to make the legal purchase agreement binding, right? You're not liable for anything else, because if you default on the purchase agreement, your only remedy of your loss is your earnest money. But what if a deal goes wrong, and how do you protect yourself from fraud? Well, the proper paperwork protects you when things don't go according to plans. A deal goes sideways, I'd say 1 out of 15 or so, because my system is pretty iron tight now. I manage everybody to the closing in a very quick timeline. I got my closing team, so maybe 1 in 5 for a newbie. And I see with my clients, 1 in 5 kind of go sideways. We can get them half of those back on track. But With the type of motivated sellers you'll attract through your marketing, there's always room for negotiation and extended timelines. So we protect ourselves from fraud by using the title company or attorney to close the deal. No problem with that. And we're not even paying the closing costs. So it really doesn't pay to do tabletop closings with this method. And again, worst case scenario, deal falls completely apart, you lose 10 bucks. So I basically reverse engineered failure after all my deals. Every time a deal went sideways, I'd write it into my contract, scratch it off that list. That ain't going to happen again. So you're not using theory. You're using a proven system refined by real problems that I already solved. The only extra step needed is when me or a client do a deal in a new state that we haven't done a deal in and we haven't used those documents in. In that case, we just run the documents through a local real estate attorney in that state. Well, who handles the inspections and repairs of these properties? The end buyer does his own due diligence, right? And without making this video extremely long, I'll just say that because I could go deep down this inspection and finding out the cost of all the repairs needed. That's not what this video is about. This is fast cash, 10K, your first month. So I'm not going to talk too much about inspecting the property because you really don't have to. I rarely actually do anymore. I'll either send my contractor or my assistant down. It does help if you know how to explain what work, if any, needs done, right, in your marketing. So especially if the house has major repairs, if it's a rehab and you have a background on the property and some knowledge about home repairs, it will help you in your marketing. You will do more deals, absolutely. I see contractors coming into this method and they really got an advantage over like newbies who don't know much about houses. So if you don't know anything about construction, you just want to make that clear up front in your marketing. Look, put it on the email blast, put it in your flyer. You're buying it as is. I don't have any knowledge of the house. Go see for yourself, and you can still do deals. So if I am going to meet the seller at the property, of course, I'll take pictures and do a walkthrough then. But like I say, often I don't even inspect it myself. If I'm not running out there, if I'm not in the field. You can also have the seller just send you pictures. So now let's get into the steps needed to make the quick flip method work. Step 1, create your offer to attract your prospects, motivated sellers, and cash or credit buyers. Step 2 is getting the traffic and building the list. And I've got a list. I've got a 14-day step-by-step process that covers everything from social media, what to set up, what software to use, everything. Everything I use, basically plug and play. Here, it's on a USB out of my computer into your brain, into your computer, turn your machine on. Step 3, making the offers and setting the closings. It sounds simple. It's where some people struggle. First of all, exercising your risk muscle, like writing the offers. A lot of investors are stalling out there for fear of rejection, some say. Others just don't know what kind of offer to write. But then setting the closings, this step is where most deals fall through. Right here, when people get near that closing, the seller could have been entertaining other offers for more. They could have talked to an agent that said, well, I can get you more than that, right? Sure. And then the buyers getting cold feet, maybe the money falls through. But I got a template for the process of, like I say, making sure we push everybody like herding cats to a bathtub. It's not easy, but it's manageable. And then step 4, simply repeat what works, eliminate what doesn't. Like I mentioned earlier, we got a track to run on using the closing process, using the checklist, house buyer checklist. And when things go askew, when the deals go sideways, we write it in. You might even have some particular in your market, your state, whatever, that you'll have to write in. You're like, this wasn't on the checklist. Write it in. Well, you've got this checklist that you go off of. And when things don't go right, you fix it. Simple as that. It really is easy. And I've done it, like I say, for a lot of clients. And when something works, we just repeat it, do it again until it stops working. Like that could be the marketing, the real estate market changes. And after a while, 10K actually becomes easy. And then you just raise your target. It's called, I just had a client say it's something about like lifestyle creep. I think he's what he said, where you're excited about making 10K every month. It's coming bang, bang, bang. Then you do 20K. You're like, well, I kind of like this. Got a little walking around money, and your lifestyle kind of creeps up. Which, hey, that's cool. Well, here's the 3 keys mistakes that you want to avoid, because this will stop you or break you. Not knowing the bottleneck or fixing the wrong thing. So I mentioned a couple different things that could go wrong. You want to make that fix happen. You don't want to like, oh, that sucked, and then put the deal away, and then like the same problem happens a month later or something. So you want to fix the thing. You don't want to just mess around with a process. I got a pretty dialed process. Don't be going fixing stuff. There's a book I read said, if it ain't broke, fix it anyways. I never did like that. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So, and not knowing how to get more buyers and sellers. Um, Again, I've got 2 major modules, 14 days each. One for buyers, one for sellers. They run on the same rails. What runs on the rails is the lead generation engine. 2 separate lanes, and there is no problem. But yeah, there is no problem getting it, but knowing how to do it is a mistake that a lot of people make. So the last one, just not making your offers properly, and this is the worst of all things. And I'm going to kind of expand on that. But so not knowing how to fix your bottlenecks or fixing the wrong thing. Here's the fix to it. Draw out your pipeline and be aware of every element one by one. And then you find out which one is broke. But obviously you're going to know there's a problem, right? So you're going to know which one's broke. Fix that one. Whichever one breaks in your pipeline the soonest, fix that one first. And then there's probably going to be a second one. Fix that one second. And if there's a third one, fix that one, and so on. Right? You just go right down your pipeline. And then not knowing how to get more buyers and seller leads, understand testing and trying things out. Different styles, different markets require different even words in the ads. Test it out. Try different marketing media, different copy, themes and subjects, and then track everything like a scientist. This is where I really dropped the ball early in my career. I didn't track anything. I didn't even know about tracking stuff. Like leads come in, great. Okay. Why did they come in? From where? You got to track it like a scientist, and then just, again, do more of what works and less of what doesn't. And then 3, you need to do proper paperwork. You have to have the proper paperwork to make the magic happen. And for your own sanity, you need a proven process. And I'll show you how to get both in a second, because while this fast flip method minimizes many traditional barriers, it still requires discipline. So the advantage isn't that it's effortless. I'm not claiming that. You will be involved in the day-to-day of this. My assistant does a lot of it. Even my contractors do some of it. To start, at least, you need to learn it and do it for sure. But the advantage isn't that it's effortless. Compared to any other form of real estate investing. Again, prove me wrong. It is so much better. Here's why. The learning curve is flatter than any other method of real estate investing because it's simpler. It really is. I explain it to my clients in 3 steps. And we actually teach it in Investor Sprint, which I'm going to be starting soon, in 3 steps. We do a 4-week, and that 4th week is compounding. I won't go into it, but we teach it in 3 steps, the entire system. So you can go from learn to earn the fastest with this method. The other benefit is the risk is much lower than any other method because you're not buying the property. You're not owning it. You don't have tenants, toilets, turnover. You have the largest leverage on your investment. Well, what's your investment? $10 earns money. For $10, you can make 10K, 5K on a bad day. Do that math. And it's more profitable because of the minimum time involved. You can go from learn to earn the fastest, but also your time in the deal is the fastest anywhere. Here's just something you can screenshot that does compare each of the factors that I think are pretty important for comparing niche to niche. So take a screenshot of that. And then, if you're still watching this, you've already showed up, good on you. But if you've been trying to make money in real estate and you just haven't found the right fit yet, something that really aligns with how you want a business to work, to feel, how you want to help people, or if you haven't pulled the trigger yet because you've been confused, like I was talking about, or you thought you needed money or credit or a bank, God forbid, now is the time to take action. So if you already have a real estate business but just been grappling with a way to make the kind of money that is out there and waiting for you, and you've got a business and you want to bolt on another stream of income like I did with, I was doing the fast flip and then I bolted on a real estate portfolio. The two blend great. So, I mean, if you're in rentals, this would be something you probably could consider seriously. So if that's you, I have 2 levels of proximity to me to learn this fast flip real estate method. I've got a video you can watch for free where I collect a $25,000 profit check for a deal I didn't buy, for a property I didn't sell, and the out-of-pocket money was, that's it, $10. So that's free. I'll pop a link below so you can get how I flip houses. And then the second level of proximity is closer to me. It's that 4-week investor sprint I mentioned where you get direct access to me, my paperwork, and the entire fast flip system. That's the 2 14-day buyer seller. Step 2 is the contacts, and then the step 3 is the closing. I've got a checklist and process for each of those steps to make everything pretty much bulletproof, kind of like an assembly line, precision of an assembly line. And I keep the group small so you get the personal help you need. There's 5 to 8 people. So you get everything set up and running by the end of the sprint. So yes, it will cost you money, but it'll be worth more than your money is worth to you. So a link to the investor sprint is also below. Now look, I would just encourage you to copy me. If you've already done a bunch of research and you're just struggling with the information, misinformation, the analysis paralysis, get my proven way to profit. It's like a franchise model, right? Without the 6-figure franchise investment. Real estate can be simple, man. Don't make it complicated. Keep it simple scales, meaning I've always heard the keep it simple stupid, right? This is far much better, far more accurate. Keep it simple. When it's simple, you can scale it. Again, 10K, 20, 50K, 100K a month. Scale it, get in, get out, get paid, repeat. So hope to see you guys in the investor sprint.